I'm sure you could agree that money is just a tough topic. Lots of people struggle with all sorts of things around their finances, around their relationship with money. Now that I'm in my 40s, I look back on my whole life and how my relationship with money has evolved over the years. There are some really critical moments and really critical relationships that I used to not really explore very deeply. I didn't think they impacted me, and I didn't think they shaped the way I perceive money, the way I relate to money, and the way I operate. I'm here to tell you that in my 40s, I still struggle with money in many different ways. I reached financial independence, according to the number that I set for myself, in my mid-30s, but it didn't matter. The same struggles that I had in my 20s still exist today in my 40s. The difference is I'm much more aware of these struggles. I know about them, I can identify them, I still feel them, I still am challenged by these struggles, but I have ways of working through them that are more effective, and that awareness alone is key to success. Today I'm going to share with you my 3 top struggles with money. I'll tell you about the origins of these struggles and how I'm dealing with them, how my relationship with these struggles has evolved, and hopefully you'll be able to resonate with some of these ideas. We'll find some common ground, and you can start thinking more critically about your relationship with money. So my first struggle has to do with how I spend money. It's always been a challenge for me to spend my money freely. I work hard, I save the money that I make, I invest that money, but I find myself always thinking about alternatives. Well, if I buy this product, what am I not going to be able to buy in the future? There's always a trade-off, and my mind is constantly dealing with these trade-offs in real time. What this results in is a very difficult time making decisions around things that I want to purchase. Maybe it's a thing that I don't really need, but I want. Well, that makes it even more difficult. When I know I need something, it's for medical purposes, or it's for my dog, or for another person, I rarely have trouble spending the money. But if it's for myself, it's an item that I want, I struggle greatly. Now I can trace this back to watching my parents with money. I did grow up in a middle-class family, but we never had a ton of money. My parents also did not spend freely. It was a treat to go out to dinner. We cooked every meal at home. We were very, very conservative around how money was spent. And because of this, I never grew up with the idea that money was abundant, that money was free-flowing, that you can easily separate with the money that you make in order to improve your life. This was not a concept that made any sense to me. Everything was about optimizing, saving, and making sure that all the bills were paid and that the future picture looked bright and rosy. Now, unbeknownst to me, this really dialed in a certain level of stress deep within myself around money. Every time I get paid, I want to make sure that I'm optimizing every dollar, that I'm doing the right thing with the money that I have. I've made a lot of mistakes over the years. I've missed opportunities to invest. I've held on to too much cash for too long a period of time. I've definitely struggled with how to deploy capital, but I think this has to do with my general dis-ease around money and its scarcity. You'll hear a lot of YouTubers mention the scarcity mindset. I think that's part of what's going on for me, but it's also the realization that what I do have, I've worked very hard for, I'm fearful of losing it, and so because of that, I don't necessarily operate freely or have a positive and open-ended relationship with money. This has held me back in many different ways. Now, as I've gotten older, I'm much more easily able to identify when I'm feeling this way about a specific purchase or a specific investment. When I was younger, I might have recoiled and just avoided the purchase altogether, decided not to make a decision in the moment, or just missed out on an opportunity because of the money and the implications of spending that money. Now, in my 40s, I can take a step back. I can say, I am feeling this way. I acknowledge my feelings around this situation, but I think I really want to do this thing, or I really want to buy this thing. I'm able to work through it, make the purchase, and then go forward with my life. Now, unfortunately, there are times when I do make these purchases or I do make these decisions and there's some remorse, some level of buyer's remorse. This is really common with very large purchases, and for me, it can even be around smaller purchases, mostly because I feel like I spent that money on something. What if I don't have enough to spend on something that's really, really important down the road? There's a fear there, an underlying fear that I possibly will not have enough money moving forward. Now, my second struggle with money is very closely linked to the first. The first, again, is a fear of spending large amounts of money due to a fear that I might not have enough in the future, a general scarcity mindset around money. The second is that I've remained in very conservative jobs throughout my entire life. I've had desires to break off from my W-2 employer and to go work in a private sector job or to go start a business. I have owned and operated my own business previously, but because of the time constraints to own and operate that business, I ended up going back and really doubling down on my W-2 job. Now, I have great benefits, I have a decent salary, and I also was fortunate enough to get into a pension program that continues to be active for me due to the amount of time I've spent with my current employer. But if I had to do it all over again, I would make different decisions. I would be a bit more risky. I would go after the things that I really wanted in my earlier years. Now that I'm 40, I'm a bit older, I have more responsibilities, I feel less free, less able to make different decisions and pivot into some of the things that I've always dreamed of doing. Now that said, I still plan on making that decision someday. I still plan on leaving my current W-2 job when the timing is right and going into business for myself. But I haven't done it yet, and that is a direct result, in my opinion, of how my relationship with money was initially started and how I relate to money now. Now, as I become more and more financially free, I feel much more enabled to make a decision like this, to leave a job, a secure and stable job, and go into business for myself. But in retrospect, as I mentioned, going back and doing this earlier in life would have been easier. There's so much money available for people to earn. There's really no shortage of money. The most important thing is that you're offering value for the thing that you're offering the world. There's really no limit to the amount of money you can make. Now, my goal has never really been exclusively to make money. And so part of the reason I've stayed in a job is because it aligns very well with my values. It allows me to give back to the community, to give back to this country. But I would be wrong if I didn't mention to you that I have some regrets. Now, I don't have regrets in the sense that I would do everything differently and I wish I could go back. The truth is, I have a lot of time left in life and I have a lot of freedom now to make new decisions and to pursue different interests. But I'm sharing this with you today in case you are struggling with the decision around staying in a job that you're not passionate about because you have a fear of not being able to make enough money. Of course, eventually you'll have to make enough money, and so if you go out on your own and you're unsuccessful, you'll have to make a different decision. You may have to work a job and then work in the evenings to support your business ventures. That's a sacrifice that I made for many years, and it's one that you might have to make too. But please, when you're thinking about going out and making money, consider all the options. Think about going into ownership versus working for an employee. I think had my relationship with money been different from childhood, I likely would have felt more free to make some of these decisions at an earlier age. And the final struggle, which is very real for a large number of people, many of my friends included, is a fear of feeling generally behind your peers, behind where you have set goals for yourself or where you thought you would be at a certain age. I think we all have an idea early on in life that we're going to be at a certain place, doing certain things, making a certain amount of money, and then We live that life and we're not where we thought we would be. Now, part of the beauty is actually being in a different place. Living the life, having the experience is a big part of the joy of living life. At the same time, it can be very challenging mentally to not feel like you've achieved the goals that you've set out for yourself. And in some cases, maybe you set out to achieve some goals, you achieve those goals, but you see others all around you doing better. You watch the YouTube video of the person who made millions and millions doing this one thing, or you see a friend of yours start a business and get really successful overnight. All of these things do happen, and they make us feel inadequate as individuals. If you have, like me, stayed in a W-2 job and been satisfied with that over the years, but feel some degree of regret, it's important to realize that there's probably a lot of time, a lot of runway in front of you to make different choices, to try new things. It's never too late to embrace a different understanding about your life and how to move forward. It's very similar when you're looking at your peers or just generally people around you and feeling behind. You started from a unique place, and wherever that place was, you've had to make all sorts of different decisions. You've grown as an individual, and it's really important to take stock of all the things that you have done over the years. You may not be where you want, but being grateful for the things that you do have, the lessons that you have learned, and the idea about where your future might take you, those are the core components to how I manage this particular struggle. Yes, of course, I would like to have all of the things that I want right now, but I know that that's not my reality. My reality is where I am today, and the most powerful tool I have is my mind, my framework, my orientation or perception of the world, and how I decide to move forward in this world. The decisions that I make from here on out are the most important decisions. Ruminating on decisions made in the past is great in terms of reflecting and getting value, learning lessons from mistakes perhaps that you made, but it's not really helpful to be critical of yourself and to resent the fact that you're not where you want to be or that you feel like you're behind all of your peers. Instead, take all of that energy, recognize the things that you've been through, the growth that you've had, and focus on where you want to go in the future. Again, we all struggle with money. Everyone has a particular story around money that they've built up in their heads over the years. The critical point to this video is that you need to get comfortable with your money story. You need to understand how your perceptions impact the decisions that you make and how you see the world and the money in the world around you. Once you've realized these limitations that you have, you need to take stock of those limitations and figure out ways to work around them or to navigate them so that these particular issues don't hold you back from the aspirations that you have around money in the future. If you do these things, you'll feel much better about your relationship with money. You may never ever be able to escape the feelings that you have, but you can change your understanding and relationship with these fears or struggles, and this will help you break free ultimately from the shackles that these particular constraints put on your life. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'd love to hear from you below in the comments about your struggles with money. Did you get any value from my struggles? Do you relate to any of them? Or do you have completely different struggles? Let me know below. I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week for another video. Take care.